Welcome to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast, the place for scrappy entrepreneurs who want to learn actionable steps and strategies to grow the traffic, sales, and profit in your e-commerce business. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster, a 20-year retail veteran and former brick-and-mortar boutique owner who spent 3 years as the only employee of a 7-figure online store. That shit was crazy. I know exactly how it feels to do all the things, and I'm sharing everything I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I may have started this business by accident, but supporting badass bosses like you lights me the fuck up, and I am so stoked to see you grow. Are you ready, babe? Let's roll. Welcome back to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. For my OGs, thank you for tuning in every week. I seriously appreciate it. It's so funny because sometimes I forget people are actually listening to this, and then I'll get a message from someone saying, hey, I really love this week's episode, or, oh, that really got me on track for my upcoming plans, or, oh, this got me thinking that I should try this thing in my business. And I often get the biggest response to the episodes that I'm not 100% sure how well is going to resonate. So the lesson here is no matter how intentional you are or how hard you try, you just never know when your message is going to hit. So don't forget to keep showing up. Okay? All right. Enough rambling. Let's get into today's episode. Over the last few months, word on the street is that sales are down and business is a struggle. And I've had some conversations with students, clients, and biz friends, some even here on this podcast. I'll stick links in the show notes for you to help you navigate through that and figure out your best next steps. And most of the time, the conversations we're having are double down on what's working, be more consistent with your marketing, send more emails, talk to your customers, look at your data. And all of that is still true. Yes, please do all of those things. But I also want to make sure that when you're digging into that information and analyzing these things, that you're asking yourself the right question. And the question is, do you have product market fit? Essentially, does your product satisfy a need or solve a problem that exists in the market? Pretty straightforward, right? In last week's episode, talking about website conversion optimization, Chase mentioned the importance of having a product people want. For the sake of that episode, I kind of glossed over it because I assume, something my mama told me never to do, that you have probably already proven product market fit. And if you've sold your product to multiple strangers on the internet or in person, then there's a pretty good chance that you've got that or are on your way. But finding product market fit is not a one-time event. As your business grows, evolves, and matures, as you release new collections and products, as you start reaching a wider audience, you might notice that that product market fit you were once so confident about seems to be eroding. That could look like a large or long-term sales slump. It could look like a decline in repeat business. Or it might just be a plateau where you can't seem to get yourself to that next level. No matter how long you've been in business or what revenue level you're at, it's possible something in your market and its connection or desire for your product will change. So, if you're struggling right now, or it happens sometime in the future, I want you to keep this concept of product market fit in mind when you're evaluating and trying to reinvigorate your business. Take my student, for example. She started making candles in her mom's kitchen last year, and while it was slow growth at first, come Q4, she joined the lounge, she started ads, her business started blowing up. In fact, she was doing so well, she was able to quit her toxic day job and go full-time in her business. It was very exciting. While the stars aligned for her during that time, when Q1 rolled around, she started to struggle. And she was doing all the right things, but nothing was making a meaningful impact on her bottom line. Customers left rave reviews, but not enough of them were turning into solid repeat customers. She tried focusing on increasing that first purchase AOV by offering bundles, and that helped, but not enough to make up for the lack of repeat business. She did full pre-launch events for her new scent collections, but the results were lackluster. While her ads continued to bring in new customers, all the optimization in her marketing efforts wasn't translating. Then it all changed. She launched a new collection of scents that were more in line with the vibe of her initial bestsellers. And boom, people were all over it. The other scent collections she had released were fine, but they weren't unique. And they weren't at all what she had become known for in that initial ramp up of her business. Once she released this latest collection, her business became easy again, as easy as business can be, of course. This is such a great reminder that you don't need to be everything to everybody, and why being known for something, focusing on what you're really good at and what is unique to you is all you need to do. She essentially just made iterations of her bestsellers, and they were a hit. The other big win she had, creating predetermined bundles instead of build your own. While build your own always sounds like a good idea, at the end of the day, people need the mannequin. They can't be making so many decisions. And look, if you don't offer build your own, there's always going to be a customer who wants that. I'm usually that customer, to be honest, but truth is, preset bundles are likely to sell better, and hey, there's no reason you can't offer both. I had another client run into a similar situation last year. I know I talked about this somewhere on the podcast, but for the life of me, I can't remember what episode that was. Anyway, one of her ads went crazy viral last year, bringing in a shitload of new customers. And she sold a ton of this one particular pair of earrings. While having that sort of visibility and growth was great, they struggled to turn those customers into repeat customers. And they've got their marketing pretty dialed in. Great emails, multiple times a week, strong social, launch events, the whole thing. Even when they released a collection that had a similar vibe to the style that went viral, it was kind of a bust. It didn't do well with their long-term loyal customer base, and the first-time customers were mostly checked out by then. After digging into the data and the engagement of those customers with them, our mutual conclusion was they're really just two different groups of people. The style was different than what her brand traditionally does, which is why her OGs didn't really jump on it. And the new customers didn't have the same connection with the brand as her OGs. So was it their product or their marketing? Technically, in these two cases, it was their product. Not the core of what they sold, it's still candles and jewelry, but the vibe. At the end of the day, they just didn't fit with the market they were playing in. Does that mean they can't play in that market or that they shouldn't have those products? Not necessarily. And actually, the next steps for them were a bit different. For my student with the candles, she's just going to keep leaning into what she's known for and capitalize on that. And she's unique in the market. For the jewelry client, the idea was to test a few things to prove our theory. If the OGs weren't resonating with the new collections, I recommend they create a mini collection of items with materials they have on hand that had a more similar vibe to what they've sold in the past. They hand make a lot of things in-house, so this is not as big of a time or financial investment as it sounds. So we wanted to see if they release something that's a little bit more in line with what they've always done, if those OGs would take action. The second part of that is creating a special welcome series for the customers who come in from those ads on that one particular viral product, and be more intentional on trying to build a deeper connection with them and get them to buy into the brand and what it stands for, instead of just thinking of them as, oh yeah, they're the place I got these really cool earrings. But before we got to that decision of it's your product, there was a considerable amount of time dedicated to optimizing the marketing things. Of course, this can be a fine line, and it's hard to know exactly when to call it. You've got to give your optimization attempts enough time to produce results. But in the words of Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to fold them too. I like to give things at least 90 days before throwing in the towel, but it's also dependent on how much traffic and eyeballs you have. You might be able to see meaningful results in 30 days, especially if you're running paid ads. If you do suspect it might be a product issue, consider testing that theory before you invest in materials or time to make something. I was chatting with another candle maker recently, and she was toying with the idea of releasing some scents that were a little bit out of her comfort zone or a little bit different than what she normally does. If she's listening to this episode right now, she's probably thinking, shit, maybe I shouldn't do that. But girl, my advice still stands. Run a pre-order. There's no better way to validate your audience wants something than to ask them to buy it before you even make it. Sure, there are some logistical things you gotta manage, like making sure they understand when it's gonna ship and keeping them in the loop, but it's not nearly as scary as it sounds. And if you don't get enough orders to make it worth it, just be honest. Hey, there wasn't enough interest in this and we won't be producing it. You can jazz that up a little bit. Refund their money, give them a discount off their next purchase. Moral of the story. Your job as the CEO of your business is to always be evaluating your place in the market if you have product market fit and making sure that your messaging is in line with what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and why they're buying it from you. This is likely going to change over time based on how your brand changes and how your customers change. And what that change looks like is going to depend a bit on your business and what you sell. In the jewelry case, the brand was evolving a bit beyond their existing customer base. For the candles, she just went a bit too wide with her scent assortment. For others, your customers are going to age out of your product or just not need it anymore. All of this is completely normal and part of the evolution of business. Make sure you check the show notes for links to other episodes where I dive into some of the concepts we talked about here today and some of the conversations we've been having about how to deal with a sales slump. And if you want some help and a little hand-holding along the way, come join us in the Lounge membership. We've got some super cool chats, course material, and guests coming in this summer. And I know you want to be by the pool sipping margaritas. Me too. But summer's a really great time to work on your business so you can head into Q4 on solid ground. Just saying. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Thanks so much for making it to the end. Have a kick-ass rest of your day, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn more about growing your e-commerce business, get started with my free resource library at ecommercebadassery.com/free stuff and get an invite to the Lounge, my e-commerce marketing membership. When you're ready for one-on-one support, apply to work with me at ecommercebadassery.com/apply. Before you go, would you do me a quick favor? Leave a rating and review and tap that follow button. This pushes me up the charts so I can support more scrappy e-commerce entrepreneurs just like you. I'm on a mission to reach as many as I can, and I could really use your help. Thanks so much in advance. Until next time, e-commerce friend, stay badass.